Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting of the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee to order. Can we first of all do a roll call? Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Councillor Campbell? Present. Deputy Mayor Dodick? Absent. Councillor Middleton Hope?
Present.
And our Chair, Councillor Parker?
Here.
We do have quorum, and I also see that Councillor Carlson is on the line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to now read the acknowledgement statement. The City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationships to the land. The City of Lethbridge offers respect to the Métis and all who have lived on this land and made Lethbridge their home. Item number 4, the consent agenda, 4.1, 2025. This is the May 15th Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee. First, signed by Councillor Middleton Hope. Be resolved that the June 19th, 2025 agenda of the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee be adopted as presented. Councillor Middleton Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are there any changes, Madam Clerk?
There isn't a change, but there is an additional letter that will be added on to the agenda from Barry Ewing. He already added one letter to the agenda, and there's an additional one sitting in front of you that will be added after the meeting.
Okay, the agenda then as amended. Call the question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Carries. Item 4.2, or 4.0 actually. I'm going a little bit ahead of myself here. Signed by Councillor Campbell. Be it resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee, 1, approve the minutes of the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee held on May 15th, 2025, and authorize the Chair and City Clerk to sign the same, and 2, receive for information the status of directed resolutions for June 19th, 2025. Councillor Campbell.
Unless there are any other questions or concerns, I'll call for the question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. We'll now move on to presentations. 5.1, Robin Heffer, CEO, Chinook Arch Regional Library System, regarding the Chinook Arch Regional Library System update. Welcome and feel free. Yep, nice to see you again. And I do believe if anyone who's coming making a presentation at the podium does go up and down. There's a little switch there, or you're more than welcome to sit down as well. Both mics are available and live.
I will sit. This is the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Robin Heffer. I'm the CEO of Chinook Arch Regional Library System. I'm joined today by Daryl Christensen, our chair, who's councillor from the town of McGrath, as well as Daphne McFarland, our associate director, and Joey Going, our communications specialist, and Tara Plato was also kind enough to join us today, the CEO of Lethbridge Public Library, with whom, of course, we work very closely as we've established over the last year or so, and delivering library services to the residents of Lethbridge. So just a quick update on what's happening with Chinook Arch. It was certainly impressed upon us in the wake of our benefit cost analysis over the last couple of years that council would like to hear from us more frequently, and so here we are, just to give you an update on what's been happening. Just a brief presentation about, we'll say, the activities in our 2024. So do I just say advance the slide? Yeah, so just a quick recap of what Chinook Arch is all about, what we do in your library and community, and just some of the specific highlights from the fiscal year 2024. Yeah, so next slide, please. So Chinook Arch is a member-governed library service organization. We are created by member municipalities, of which there are 40, under the authority of the Libraries Act, which is provincial legislation, of course. We, in a nutshell, provide a framework for the City of Lethbridge to collaborate with its municipal neighbors in the delivery of a higher level of public library service than any other municipality could deliver on its own. So to that end, a lot of the services that are essential to libraries have been sort of centralized at Chinook Arch, and as such, we're very integrated in the delivery of library services. Everything from managing the software that does the check-ins and check-outs, to internet service, websites, all the cataloging and acquisitions processes, IT support, and the like. So next slide, please. By the way, I should say if you have any questions at any time, I'm happy to answer them as we go along or at the end of the presentation, whatever is your preference. Benefits of working together on library services, centralizing things reduces duplication of effort. We realize economies of scale, especially when it comes to purchasing. At the end of the day, one of Shinnecourt's major reasons to exist is purchasing. We do over $1 million in purchasing on behalf of our members each year, which accounts for essentially a full quarter of our operating budget is purchasing that we're making on behalf of our members. So that includes library materials as well as IT equipment, computers, printing, what do you call it, toner and things like that. So purchasing through us, we get the volume discounts from our vendors that benefits our member libraries. And that can actually extend the library's book budget by up to 40% compared to purchasing on their own. So resource sharing, so no matter where you live within the Shinnecourt system, you have access to the shared holdings of all the libraries. Even though each member library is independently governed, the system essentially behaves as a large multi-branch library system. So that means if the item you want is not on the shelf in your home library, you can place a hold and it will be delivered from one of the other libraries in the system. So in 2014, there were just under 600,000 items that moved around the system to satisfy patron demand. And roughly 50% of those represent the City of Lethbridge patrons. So we also provide a community of practice, so libraries have a chance to learn from each other. We provide professional development opportunities, networking opportunities, and chance for libraries to support and share programming ideas and inspiration. Ultimately, there's a well-documented correlation between a healthy library and a healthy community, and we do know from empirical studies that libraries do provide and backstop essential services that benefit residents of municipalities, and so we're happy to support libraries in delivering those services to the residents. So, any questions thus far?
No. Well, thank you very much. We'll just keep on going, and we'll just hold off any questions.
sounds
If
good, yeah.
any of my colleagues
Sure.
have anything, they can just let me know.
So next slide, please. So we have seen growth over the last year in some of our activities. Programming in particular is one that we've been focusing on. We just wrapped up our Digital Navigator project, which is an adult aimed digital literacy program, helping seniors in particular navigate the world of the internet, avoid getting scammed, email safety and that type of thing. There's a very popular program that was grant funded that ended at the end of 2024. Let's see, the number you see there with the over 4,000 attendees, that also includes our summer reading program. So Shinnecourt runs a central summer reading program that is delivered in our member libraries as well. So program attendance is very robust. The next slide is relates to our bibliographic services. Bibliographic services being a library jargon term, meaning anything to do with materials that libraries lend. Collectively, the libraries added almost 50,000 items to the shared catalog in 2014. They spent almost $1 million on shared collections. That does include the online services that Shinnecourt provides. And yeah, our drivers, we have 2 delivery routes every day. Lethbridge gets a visit, 2 visits per day from both of our vans. And so total 4,000 delivery stops in the course of a year to the member libraries. So next slide, please. We're seeing increases in our online resources, and these are services that are provided by Shinnecourt. So Canopy is a service that provides streaming video to library patrons. We saw a 39% increase there. This is a service that Lethbridge Public Library actually started, and then we took it over so that it would be available to all of the libraries in the system. Increases in Overdrive, which is audiobooks and ebooks that people can download. Press Reader is online newspapers and magazines that probably one of our most popular resources, over 215,000 accesses. We also have an online course service called Udemy, and over 21,000 lectures were accessed in 2014 on that. So we did have to end a service due to cost in 2014, or at the end of 2024, and that's the Hoopla streaming service, ebooks, audiobooks. It was just becoming financially unsustainable, so we've shifted our resources to the Overdrive platform. So. So just a quick financial update, the last slide here. So we are feeling some financial pressure. Looks like I missed a zero there. We didn't have a $17.30 deficit at the end of the year. That was actually supposed to be $17,300. I would have preferred the 17 for sure. We are finding our costs are increasing, of course, as everyone else is discovering. We did have to purchase a delivery vehicle last year. These delivery vehicles used to cost $30,000 pre-pandemic. They are now at $65,000 for essentially the exact same thing. Technology is increasing in cost as well. We did a significant upgrade of our IT infrastructure in 2014. Luckily, we were able to subsidize that with a $75,000 CIP grant, which was great. Due to pressures from static revenue, and partly because our levies have not increased since 2023, and also because provincial funding has not increased substantially in many years, we've had to reduce our staffing by 2 at the end of 2024, and by the end of 2025, we will be down 2 full-time equivalent positions compared to when we started this budget cycle. So that about concludes my presentation. I'm happy to field any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Heffer. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this, or anyone online who would like to speak or ask from the audience for a second time? For a third and final time? We'll move on to questions. Councillor Milton Hope.
Thank you. And thanks for the presentation, Mr. Heffer. You just touched on a sore point. So how are you proposing to adjust expenses to accommodate these losses? You've laid off 2 people in 2024. You're going to lay off somebody else in 2025. Is that your solution to managing the finances that you're experiencing?
Well, I didn't specifically say that we laid off people. Some of it has been through attrition. We have eliminated 1 position and also offered people to the opportunity to work on a part-time basis. So that's how we've eliminated.
You speak into your mic.
Oh,
Thank you.
yes. So the it is. I guess we're trying to find ways to reduce our ongoing costs with the minimal impact on services. So we're quite thoughtful about how we go about that, evaluating the importance of each position and the value that each position brings. And it's certainly not something we can continue to do forever, but I feel like the staffing complement that we're at right now is reasonable in order to maintain the services that we are.
So you generated a deficit of 17,000 in 2024. What are you projecting this year?
At this point, we're projecting a small surplus of about $9,000 by the year end.
So what have you done different?
Well, certainly, I mean, the single largest item on our budget is our staffing. So reducing staffing helps quite a bit. That would be the main thing. We've also shifted some funds to online services. So our spending has increased a little bit there, but that's essentially where we are at is saving those funds. We do want to provide our staff with competitive salaries and things like that. So we're able to offer a small incremental cost of living increase for our staff in 2024, but yes, I think that's.
In 2025, there isn't going to be the same kind of pressure that you experienced in 2024.
Yes, I mean the pressure is ongoing, I think, until we see a funding increase from the province. And just to provide a bit of context for that, I went back to 2007, and at that time, the provincial government was provided about $27 million in operating grants to public libraries. And municipalities contributed about $90 million. So that was kind of the ratio, 27 to 90. In 2022, which is the most recent stats that is available, the province was contributing $30 million in library operating grants. Municipalities were contributing $167 million. So the share of municipal funding to provincial funding is like the ratio has increased quite dramatically, and so So I mean, you could gather from the data that provincial funding has not kept up with municipal funding, and that has definitely created pressures not just on us, but on public library boards as well. So.
Okay, would you agree, lastly, then, that libraries and literally any public entity is going to have to behave smarter, is going to have to look for ways to save money, that there isn't an endless pot coming in from either the municipal government or the federal or the provincial government, rather, and that you're going to have to do business differently? I mean, the whole library experience has changed dramatically in the last, 14, 17 years.
The library's business has changed, certainly. There's been a shift towards libraries as community hubs, so a lot of in-person experience, programming, just kind of recentering the library as a community center, essentially. Yeah. And so that, of course, requires resources because it requires staffing. With any library, staffing tends to be the highest cost aspect of operating the operation.
Organization.
So, right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's not new for libraries to be under financial pressure. It always seems to be that libraries, when times are tough, there are cuts or there are at least no increases, and then when times are good, there are also no increases. So, but there are things that I think that it wouldn't take much, say, for the provincial government to even fund based on current populations. Right now, libraries are funded on populations that are almost 6 years out of date. So 2019 is what we are funded on. And so certainly we could make a small amount go a long way. We recognize that there are also a lot of costs that municipalities are assuming. Lethbridge is one of our members. There are 39 others, and all of them are experiencing pressures with pushback from residents on taxation and a loss of linear revenues for rural municipalities and things like that. So, yeah, I think it's the way it's always kind of been, and I expect it to continue. And
thank you for your responses.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Nothing online? Oh, Councillor Campbell, sorry.
For giving. Just on the provincial government, is there any kind of advocacy that can happen to say, I mean, what's their reasoning for lack of funding, or where can we go to, sort of push for more funding?
There is advocacy that is happening, and there's a resolution that is coming forward to Alberta municipalities in the fall about library funding. Whether those resolutions are, whether they accomplish anything or not, I guess remains to be seen.
Right.
The last time there was a big province-wide push for an increase in library funding, it was during the brief period when Rebecca Schultz was the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and there was a small increase to the per capita amount. It was 5 cents per capita. So less than 1%, essentially, for Shinnecourt. They did change the formula for municipal library boards a little bit, which helped a lot of especially the rural libraries. But that was the last increase, and there has been nothing since. And again, that was still based on 2019 population. So right now is to have at least the population formulas updated so it keeps pace with current populations.
Is that what the ask is in the resolution that's coming before?
Yes, that is the main ask. And there is also an inflationary sort of component as well. So, these years where the per capita amount has not increased, they would like a catch up with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Heffer. Okay, I have the following resolution signed by Councillor Campbell. Item 5.1, the Chinook Arch Library Regional Library System Update. Be it resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee received the Chinook Arch Regional Library System Update for information. Councillor Campbell?
Thank you very much. As we heard, we asked them to bring information. They did. Yay. So we appreciate that. And this is for information. So unless my colleagues have any other questions or comments, I'll call for the vote.
Any further debate? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you very much. feel free to stay for the rest of the meeting. Item 5.2, the Public Art Master Plan update. Welcome, Ms. Bracken, Jillian Bracken, Community Arts and Cultural Manager, Recreation and Culture, and am I pronouncing this Annalie Adair? That's right, consultant with Evoke Culture 2.0 regarding the Public Art Master Plan update and council engagement. So this should be interesting. And oh, you're over there, okay. Okay. And welcome, Ms. Bracken, and I'll let you explain and you lead the way here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Parker, members of the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee. I'm pleased to introduce you today to Consultant Annalie Adair of Evoke Culture 2.0. She's seated over here just for technological reasons. She's with me today to help lead discussion with you to inform updates to the city's public art master plan. The city's MDP, Municipal Development Plan, identifies the need to ensure the future advancement of public art by providing continuous support to a public art program. The MDP recommends that the Public Art Master Plan be regularly updated to ensure that city support for public art is sufficient and that it addresses potential barriers and community needs. The current Public Art Master Plan is over 10 years old, and much has changed in Lethbridge since it was written. The need for an updated Public Art Master Plan is also identified in the city's Civic Culture Plan, which was adopted by Council in Principle in June 2024. Culture Plan establishes a shared vision that will guide city cultural policy development, including public art. It sets a long-term direction and provides a lens through which decisions can be made and resources allocated. Work to update the Public Art Master Plan started in November 2024 with the hiring of Evoke Culture 2.0. We're currently in the engagement phase of the plan development, and we completed a series of public engagement labs in April 2025. And we're excited to launch a public survey, an engagement toolkit, and a series of artist-led engagement activities, which will begin later this month. Today's conversation with Council is an important step in the current engagement phase of the project. The engagement strategy aims to gather meaningful input from residents, artists, cultural organizations, and key stakeholders. And engagement will ultimately shape a vision for public art that is grounded in Lethbridge's unique identity, while aligning with broader city priorities for things like inclusion, sustainability, reconciliation, and placemaking. The insights gathered from today's engagement with Council and other public engagement activities will directly inform the updated Public Art Master Plan's recommendations. This includes recommendations for changes to Council's Public Art Policy CC30, a governance framework connected with Culture Plan implementation, including roles for an interdepartmental working group and an intercultural community forum, and proposed changes to the city's public art funding model. This update is being conducted in the context of placemaking, with an eye to creating a more comprehensive public art activation and engagement framework that will enhance city spaces, encourage dialogue, and contribute to the development of a vibrant public realm. Council's public art policy currently outlines the role of City Council as providing funding to the program from the CIP, which includes a designated allocation to a maintenance reserve, as utilizing an advisory body called the City of Lethbridge Public Art Committee, and as approving project plans and budgets that align with the CIP funding cycle with annual updates provided. And we just provided the most recent annual update at the May 15th Safety and Social SPC. Today's engagement session will focus in on Council's role in setting policy, governance, and in resourcing the program, seeking your feedback in these key areas. So I will stop talking and we will now start the engagement session with Annalie, who's going to lead us through some activities via Mentimeter.
Thank you, Mr. Adair. You just feel free to grab that microphone and pull it a little closer to you, and we'll make sure it's live there in a sec here. Go ahead.
Is this going to take 45 minutes?
Through the chair to Councillor Middleton Hope, yes.
Okay, we've got folks that are waiting for another another opportunity to present. We're going to ask them to wait for 45 minutes or an hour?
Well, in respect to the presenter and to the consultant, we'll see how it goes here. We went over this during the agenda committee and all that, and we were told this much time was needed. And we do recommend usually 5 minutes, but for something like this, 45 minutes. I'm going to have to say we go on as is, and then we just have to do it. The sooner we start, the sooner it'll be done. Not that I'm trying to rush it, but I'm just saying.
That's okay.
All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, and we'll be as brief as possible so that you can go ahead with your other agenda items. And because of timing, we won't be able to come back in the fall because of the election. So this is why this workshop piece is required now. So just in terms of how we want to go through this, just to set the context for this, and then there are 3 key areas that we'd like feedback on. Around governance and funding models are the most important pieces for us to discuss today. So that's the objective, to get the priorities today and shape the draft master plan, because we won't have an opportunity to come back to you until after the election. So as Jillian said, things have changed. It's also changed in terms of the field of public art. It has also changed the field. So why don't we get right into it in terms of, you have a QR code there. If you have any technical difficulties, please let me know. If you go to menti.com and either scan the QR code or put this code in.
Can you just put the code in, or do you have to go to menti.com first?
You have to go to menti.com first, or you can scan the
That's what I mean.
QR code.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will tell you, this is anonymous. So we won't be able to tell which counselor said which thing. So you can speak to it if you like, and it will tell us once you're in.
Mr. Chair, do those of us online have access to this, or is it only
Yeah.
for those present?
No, online, you can go to menti.com online and just put in the code 12371613. And you should have the
Get
first
this.
question come up.
This?
I'm sorry, what was that code again?
1237
1237.
1613.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. So this is the first question. As you put this in, it will come up on the screen. And the concept here is that it will save us discussion points if you know it'll come up on the screen, your answers will come up on the screen. So throughout this, we will have this type of display of answers, and then we can discuss the role. It allows you to respond individually and then discuss collectively if there is discussion. One, 2, 3, 7, 1, 6, 1, 3. Responding as show seat. I'm pressing this H. Why is it not showing up on the screen? Okay, you can see it? Oh, we can't see it. There. Okay. Okay, so we have 3 responses, and it doesn't mean you have to respond to each question, but it would be helpful to respond as many as possible. Can you see on the screen? Does it show up on your phone, the answers on your screen as well? Okay. 1613. Do you want to scan your QR code? It might be faster. Okay. Yeah.
Thing is, if you let the other group go ahead of them, then they could be an hour or 2, right? And then it's like, yeah, it's nothing.
Okay. No. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to go to the next question. Yes, exactly.
My
Those
first
are
one,
your
I like that first
responses.
one. That first one on the left, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying who it was, but anyway,
Yeah, it's all anonymous.
Okay.
That's the best part about it. And
that was awesome.
so this is meant to be part of the civic culture plan.
Okay.
So as a tool within that plan, and there are several actions that talked about public art in the civic culture plan. So the next question is really pertaining around those actions and how can this public art master plan reflect the values and priorities in the civic culture plan? I'm going to skip this one because I'm a little bit concerned about time, as you've indicated.
Don't.
No?
Don't.
Okay.
Don't feel rushed at all.
Okay, all right. So really, we're talking about the implementation of the civic culture plan is critical, and this is the first large component of the civic culture plan to be implemented. So the values and priorities of the civic culture plan talk about intercultural forums, they talk about community voice, talks about the identity of place and the vibrancy of Lethbridge. In terms of economic development, it talks about Lethbridge as a destination for visitors, but also in terms of business and drawing it into a livable city. So how can this public art master plan, or what are your suggestions in terms of that to reflect that in this public art master plan? And how do you want to see that reflected? And sometimes there's a character limit on these answers, so just so you know, if you run out, just put it in again. Okay, great. Okay, reflecting the diversity, showcasing the strengths of the city in terms of being a welcoming city, I would think. Strategic placemaking and urban design, open houses, survey, council feedback, build a culturally vibrant city. Yeah, it's a very visible component of that. Okay, great, thank you. Board and not singular. Okay, thank you. And I'm not sure you have that in, at the tip of your knowledge in terms of the actions, but I can go back to the actions a little bit. Expand the funding model, a civic arts policy, redesign the governance, activating inclusive public space models. Which of those, or what actions should we prioritize in the public art update? Which ones are the key?
So Ms. Bracken, right now we put 1% of capital into community art and all that, am I correct?
Chair Parker, yeah, so the public art policy CC30 takes 1% of community capital projects and allocates that into a fund for public art as an art acquisition funding program.
Okay, thank you. Just.
Yeah. And we'll get into this further in detail in the next couple of questions and slides around this.
question should be.
Okay. Okay, good.
No, I'm not done. One second, sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Hi.
I just have to go grab a computer. I'll be right back.
Okay. Do you have a phone?
I do, but I need my computer for the rest
Oh, okay. Okay, changing demographics, right. Okay, good, thank you. Just let me know if anyone's still writing.
Okay.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, good. Thank you. It will really help guide this because we're early in the process and we're just, as we say, doing the engagement from April until September on this plan to get as much input from the public as possible. And the artist activations will help that this summer as well, different locations. So this will be very helpful for our process to know where and what the priorities are from council. Okay, everyone finished? Not quite, yes? Okay. What would success look like in aligning public art with civic identity and intercultural connection? And I know that there's a lot of connection between public art and private development, economic development, selling the city, identity. What would that look like for you? Okay. Yeah. All right. And please let me know if you'd like to speak to your response at any time or elaborate on it. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one if in the process. Yeah, I think that comes up a lot in terms of how do we ensure that the community is participating in the process in terms of their engagement on the decision making as well. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to give you a little bit of the current state, and this will introduce the next section, which is really around the key priorities in terms of the funding model that is currently in place and the governance model that is currently in place. And we'll have some questions around that for you in terms of your guiding us for this next update. But the definition is of public arts in the field is certainly expanding, but right now it's primarily around permanent installation of visual arts. And the field has moved a lot in the last, 15 years towards more of a placemaking, community storytelling, participatory practices, community involvement in public art, and it's not as object-based and not as collection-based. So there's some of that, and we're demonstrating that this summer with the artist activations in public spaces and public realm. The administration is right now shared between the city and the Allied Arts Council. It's a little blurry in terms of who's responsible for what. Right now, even do depend on projects, capital project funding right now. And that works when a municipality is in a boom stage. It doesn't work so well when you're in a constraint stage. So expanding the vision of public art, pivotal role in broader urban design objectives, that's what we were getting to in the first part of these questions, how and what that might look like. And moving sort of from those object-based and art in a public place to a more broader definition of that, and what does that mean in terms of Lethbridge and in the meaning of place and space and public realm here. So my question really is, do you support developing an expanded definition of public art that includes a broader, flexible definition in terms of what is included under that title of public art? Or status quo?
It says, please wait for the presenter to change slides. Has it been happening every time? No? Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there you go. All right. What do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Okay. Anybody want to speak to theirs? No? Why you wouldn't want to expand it, or why you would want to expand it? Anyone want to speak to their response? Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the current governance administration of the policy and the program is right now this. They have voting members on the Public Art Committee and non-voting members. There is also administrative support through the Allied Arts Council, who is currently in place, and that is a contract, or it comes up, how often, Jillian? 3 years or 5 years? They have an agreement?
Yeah, the current agreement is in place through the end of 2026. So we've been aligning them with the CIP cycles. So yeah, it went out for competition, and the Allied Arts Council bid and won it in, I think it was 2022 that we put that out.
Right. And then, of course, the Recreation and Culture Department, departmental designate is Jillian, who works with both the Allied Arts Council in terms of that administrative lens, and also with the Public Art Committee. And then, of course, there's the project kind of selection committees that happen per project. Programming that it has grown and evolved immensely since 2012. And that's due to, fluctuating capital project budgets. But at this point, it is at its kind of bursting point to be, and also because of the growth, things have become, the need for more formalization has become pretty clear in terms of, let's sort out what is the role of the city, what is the role of the Allied Arts Council. You have a public art collection as well, who is caring for that. What does that, in terms of the value of the collection, and also the programming.
I think we have a question from Councillor
Yeah.
Carlson.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Ms. Adair and Ms. Bracken, for the presentation, the discussion, and the opportunity for council as one of the key stakeholders to put in our 2 cents. Is it possible to back up a tiny bit? Sorry, it was about the expansion of the public art program, and I wouldn't mind sort of unpacking this or chatting about this a bit, because the development of an expanded definition of public art. And can you maybe talk about what the changes would be, like place-based projects? I was a little unclear about that, because that's kind of currently what we do, is place-based, in my mind.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking there are some public art, the one behind me, that are temporary, portable, they appear everywhere, those type of things. And so I'm just wondering, I'll let you talk. You explain to me what this
Yeah.
expansion would mean, because I'm curious why someone would think no. So I'd like to have some discussion around that.
Yeah. Do you want me to sort of, yeah. I think right now there is room for that in terms of community-led or place-based projects. However, it's not within the policy or program per se right now. So the idea that it's more flexible and open allows for you to, as a city, adapt to the changes that are in place or coming. That is also in terms of resources to be more community-based, more temporary, less dependent upon large-scale projects that are, larger scale in terms of funding and project budgets, as well as really having the community participate in projects and have their stories told, again, aligning with the civic culture plan around that. But in terms of place-based, there are many projects now in terms of the field as is changing. Artists are on design teams for large-scale environmental projects. I don't know if you know about the watershed project in Calgary, that artists were designing the whole environmental watershed project there with the team there over many years, over 10 years. So artists and public art being part of the civic planning agenda that is looking at place and space from the public realm perspective as an urban design feature and as an attraction as well, but as an urban design feature in terms of larger civic planning agendas like Civic Square downtown revitalization, neighborhood revitalization, parks, so that it really becomes a place-based discussion. And how can public art enhance those projects to the point of design, so that it's not just that you're placing an object in it, but in actual fact, it has an artist on the team to help design those spaces or to bring about the community voice in those projects, or even the community engagement in those projects, so that the community doesn't come in afterwards and the artist doesn't come in afterwards to place an object within it, but they actually understand the space or the place. So for example, in the engagement, we have hired and engaged, our team has engaged 2 Indigenous community members to talk about the 5 locations that the artists will be in, to talk about what are the first stories of those places, what are the Indigenous stories of place. So if we're talking about Indian Bow Park or whatever it may be, what are the stories that the elders can tell us about place, for example? So really looking at it from a unique place perspective and not just any city and plunking art in any location. Does that help answer?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you for that. And maybe either Ms. Adair or Ms. Bracken, have we used this approach in any projects? I'm trying to think of when we were designing Legacy Park, which was sort of intended to house legacy, I guess. Or perhaps one that jumped to mind was where it should have been done, and perhaps it was, the Yates Theatre renovation and upgrades. Have we utilized that sort of approach in anything that I can hang my hat on or think about?
Through the chair to Councillor Carlson, to a certain degree, yes. One of the projects you mentioned, we did have an artist embedded in the at the design phase with the actual contractor who was hired by Facility Services to realize the project. So for Legacy Park, yes, we actually had an artist embedded who at the design phase provided a separate public art report that then led to the funding and realization of the mosaic in the picnic shelter. And then there's another complementary piece inside of the pavilion there at Legacy. The other project that we have done, we have had an embedded artist at the design phase with the construction contractor, was at then ATB Center, now CFC. We had an artist hired again who was right in at the very beginning, and that led to the realization of the 3 public art projects that are at that facility. So I think to a certain degree, we have started on this journey, and I would say, yes, like the projects we do now are definitely place aware and site specific. I think, and Annalee, you chime in as well, like I think what this is suggesting is a broader understanding and definition of the ways in which projects would be realized, and perhaps a more generous definition of public art that would expand upon how it's currently defined in our policy as kind of a limited understanding of what visual art is. So it's part of that, but then also this idea that public art could become a tool or an approach that is used corporate-wide as a way to creatively problem solve, or to consider different ways of doing things, different ways of engaging the public, as opposed to, I think, what traditionally across the sector has been, limited for a certain time to more traditional like sculptures and even some of the work we're doing within murals. Like that's a kind of a very traditional and sometimes limited understanding of what public art is and what public art can do.
And thank you. Unless there's anything further, Mr. Chair, maybe it wasn't the city led, but I'm not sure who led it. But at several events and festivals I've been to, there are temporary, everyone gets to go out and put their handprint on and write whatever they want on Canada Day or whatever. Who keeps those, or what happens to those? I've done so many of them, I've never seen them again.
Temporary, yeah.
They are very temporary.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
maybe, are
It's
they
experiential.
digitized?
Yeah.
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 Okay. I'll jump out of the queue here, Mr. Chair. Thanks for helping me understand a bit more about that.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
So I'm just
Yeah, okay.
going to that next question.
What principles should get?
Yeah, principles around guiding the governance of public art to ensure accountability and community voice. Your responses will help guide us around that. We will also obviously get public input, but on principles, but it would be great to have your guidance around that. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Be fearless, I like that. Doesn't come up, that doesn't usually come up. Transparency, yes, and that's a big one for people in terms of the public, taxpayers. Yeah. Sustainability and education. Good, thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Fun. Community support, understanding of how much is available. Okay, good, thank you. Do you support transitioning to a governance structure that includes interdepartmental working group and an intercultural community forum in some way,
Well, I didn't
shape,
get
or
this
form?
question. When did this? Oh, it just came through.
Yeah, just came through.
Okay.
We'll be done. Okay.
Mr. Chair, perhaps a little explanation. Yeah, somebody just jumped in with, I need more information.
Yeah.
A little explanation for those of us would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. This is in relationship, and Jillian, you might want to answer this. It's in relationship to the civic culture plan. Go ahead, I think.
Yeah, the idea of an interdepartmental working group and intercultural community forum as bodies that would help guide and shape culture plan implementation are two of the strategies that we're looking to implement as part of that work. And as Annalee introduced, like public art is a major part of the culture plan. So the question here is just around if there's interest or support from council, as there was when we discussed this in the context of the culture plan, for considering public art as part of that structure. It would be a shift from what we do right now, but just to kind of consider a more defined role for an internal body, and then a more defined role for a body that would be really community-led. Whereas right now we kind of have a hybrid with the Public Art Committee of two, the kind of in and out working together, with a lack of clarity kind of around the role of governance when it comes to that committee's function from a governance standpoint. So I think the spirit of this question is more about like the alignment of public art with the culture plan when it comes to how we would administer it.
Mr. Chair, if I can continue on that. Yeah, it's hard to say if I'd support an intercultural community forum without understanding exactly what that is. So, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And it has in the civic culture plan, and it goes into a lot more detail on that. I will say that we had an interdepartmental working group session this morning when we were talking about synergies between projects and how can public art enhance those projects. And it was really interesting to see, and graduate retention was used as an issue to kind of test it, how that might work. So it's yeah, the IWG is a really important piece, and really the Intercultural Community Forum is in the hierarchy would be allowing that to happen so that you have more diversity and inclusion present, as opposed to just in terms of the entities that are already involved in the Public Art Committee. So now we get to the investment model, this is the last part of the presentation in the workshop. Talking about the current funding model, yes, it's based on the percent for art model. Newer plans across the country are starting to change this just because the volatility of the way in which the model has been for 30 years or over 30 years. Usually assigns a percentage ranging from that. 1% is standard. But as I mentioned earlier, that model only works during periods of high capital project growth, and Lethbridge will see an expected decrease from the CIP over the next 5 years, significantly impacting how this program and if this program can operate. And so this is a kind of a snapshot of how much it has impacted the public art program. There's high periods of investment, and now we are at very low periods of investment. So it's not sustainable in the current form. So we have some, we can show the investment over this period of time since the policy was approved in 2009, right up to 2026. And a rolling average would allow for a 5-year plan to be done, and so that the city and its partners can plan 5 years of what a public art program would look like. So this is what the average has been, the investment over the last, not quite 20 years, but a long time. And you can see there how much it's fluctuated over time. So the question is, given the projected decline in capital projects, do you support exploring alternative or hybrid funding models beyond the 1% model? Okay. This is a big one, because this will dictate
Policy,
how
yeah.
we move forward.
This is a policy one, big time.
Yes, very big.
Go ahead, Councillor Croson.
When you look at this, there's two parts to it. I really want us to look at the ongoing operational maintenance piece and the money for new pieces. Now, because I think those, right, we may have a few years when we're not putting any new pieces out, because I mean, we might not be building new buildings, but we still have to maintain what we have. So please make sure there is a funding model in place for maintenance, because I think that's absolutely essential no matter what way council goes through in later years. And also look at what other options might be for new ones, because I think we're telling almost all groups, we're not going to be doing too much in the next few years of anything new. That doesn't stop us from asset management and maintaining what we have. And our maintenance is also tied into that 1%, and that worries me, because the maintenance money is not there if we're not building anything new. And this is, you know, very like all or nothing. Are you building new and everything under the 1%? So when, I know this is just asking broad questions, but make sure we think about how we're going to maintain it. And back to your earlier one, I was the one who said, I'm not sure of the model. Those are really nice words, but again, it's going to come down to the detail on that, because in principle, I really dislike silos, and we tend to silo in this community and in this corporation. You know, it's just something groups do, and arts has often been siloed out. So how you do it is going to matter, though, because I do think I want arts to have a bigger seat at the table. But how do you do it in a way that is comprehensive across all the diversity within our community? I want to see more of that.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, as it stands now, the model would not allow for a maintenance budget, because there would not be, right? Because there is no funds really available. This is why we propose to municipalities a rolling average where you know exactly what you're investing from year to year, and it's either a percent or a designated amount or a hybrid model. These are options, and this is probably what I want to get an early read on from you, because this will actually determine the strategies in which we put forward to you for this plan. And we don't want to wait until, you know, a draft plan to get to this stage in terms of how this plan update and how the program will be resourced. It's a really critical discussion.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate this coming up, because this sort of speaks to, I think, what Councillor Croson was talking about, a hybrid model where there could be a base that is mostly dedicated perhaps to maintenance, and then the project allocation could come on top of that for new projects, but I'll leave that for now. My question is around, and maybe Ms. Bracken can answer this, or somebody can. How do we maintain the public art now? Is it through the public art budget, or where it can be attached to a project, such as the new fire hall, what have you, the skate park, which would be parks, like things that are tangible assets? Are they associated with those budgets now, or is it completely separate?
Through the chair to Councillor Carlson. So within the public art policy, it states that 10% of the 1% goes to a maintenance reserve. So over the history of the funding to the program, we have amassed a reserve that is used to maintain and care for artwork that we install. So that is in place, but to Annalie's point, if there's no money coming into public art through the 1%, there's no sub-allocation going to the maintenance reserve. So we are okay for now, because it was built into the program that there's a consideration for future care whenever a project is initiated through the establishment of that reserve. So we pulled from that as needed with the direction of the Public Art Committee and their guidance and expertise. And then, yeah, we work very closely with our facility services departments, since so many of our pieces are situated in city-owned facilities. Parks is another huge partner, especially the graffiti management crew, who are great partners for us. And honestly, like a big part of this master plan update is looking at exactly this. Like, what is our conservation strategy in the long run? How are we caring for our collection? What is our collection? And we have a conservator embedded in this consulting team who actually is on site today and yesterday doing condition assessments on our largest and oldest public artwork. So yes, we agree, top of mind is caring for what we have, but it does come down to money as well, in that we will use the reserve we have as long as we can, and then look to establish a funding model moving forward that will have this as a key consideration.
And
Okay.
yeah, and I will add that also trending in the field is moving away from collection-based public art for reasons that cities are not maintaining their public art collections, and the value and the appraisals on those collections aren't being done. And there is not usually the funding to maintain them. Hence, the broader definition of public art allows for more flexible approaches to public art and not so heavy on collecting objects. But the rolling average obviously would be the option that we would recommend rather than a hybrid model, because then you're still dependent on project budget. It allows for a longer sustainable amount of money that is based on your average of your investment, but also allows for staff and for partners to plan 5 years ahead and do a broader approach to public art, which may include objects being made, but it may include some activations. It may include granting to organizations that are already doing public art, and it may also allow you to, as a city, to partner on and not only be the only funding source for public art. That's what it allows for. It allows for that kind of partnership and diversity of funding sources. Whereas now you're the sole funder, the way it's set up now, and the way it can move. If you have that time and space to have a plan in place for 5 years, it allows for more sponsorship, more partnership, granting, more partners involved in public art that are already doing it in the community. So it just allows for a lot more flexibility so that you're not holding the sole purpose and responsibility for public art in your community. So that's it's more of a planned strategic perspective rather than a one-off project perspective. And that's why we would recommend it.
Okay, thank you for that. One final question, if I can, Mr. Chair. Councillor Crowson talked about siloing, and I guess I'm curious, because right now we've got a fairly narrow definition of public art, and it's really about visual art, and we're talking about expanding that. But public art could be many other things. Shakespeare in the Park
Absolutely,
is public art. And I'm wondering if it's something that should be looked at more holistically, rather than saying, all right, we'll put $235,000 a year for visual arts and $80,000, but have one organization just handle the arts funding in Lethbridge. Is that something we should be looking at rather than siloing pockets of money again? Oh, sorry.
We're definitely looking at a broader definition beyond visual arts for public art intervention.
Odd question, isn't it?
Maybe. Would you be open to a rolling average or base budget allocation for public art? This question?
And it's a rolling average, or would you be open to a rolling average or base budget allocation? It's either or.
Yes.
It's a yes/no question.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all of the above. For the discussion, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So it was kind of a flawed question a little bit.
Yeah, I should have said rolling average, because that's one we would recommend, but, or a base budget, this is the option. Rolling average hybrid model, based operating and project allocation. But, yeah, okay. Yes, they are the same thing. It's a base, the rolling average is a percentage, and base budget allocation would say, no, we're not interested in doing 230,000. We'd be open to a base amount of 150,000 per year. Yeah, well, yes, based on, but yes. So I know in finance for some cities and financial CAOs, they would prefer a base budget amount of an amount, not a based on a percentage. A base budget amount with incremental increases according to cost of living allowance. That's also been accepted by cities. They tend to not like the percentage of a capital budget. So that's why I'm asking if you're open to either one of those, either a rolling average or a base budget that would be consistent and ensure that you have this much money per year for public art, programming, granting, whatever it may turn out to be, so that you're not at this state where you're looking at, you're unsure every year what your budget's going to be, because you can't plan that way. And therefore, there's not as much room for partnership and other funding sources. Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, I think we're over.
I want to make sure,
Yeah.
because we did,
Yeah.
I can see those folks probably be doing the same
Yeah,
thing, look at the
we're
clock
milling
while
around. I think this is my last question anyway, but any specific goals, neighborhoods, or community groups you feel must be reflected in the plan? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. And one last question after this. What do you need to feel confident in its approval and implementation? What do you need from us? What do you want to make sure that we include, or what do you need from us? Okay. Okay. Yes. We have a very extensive, in-depth engagement process that has been going since April and will be ending at the end of September. So it's a very ample time to get community input. So we're hoping with all those methodologies, we'll be able to do so.
These questions are hard to really answer.
I know. Yes, yeah. Yeah. But at least it gives us a little bit of a guide of how you're feeling about it and where we need to go and where we need to do some more research and work. So thank you very much for putting up with the technology and for participating in in this format. Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak on this at this time? Obviously, they didn't have the little opportunity, but you were asking more for the political perspective and
Yes.
opinion on this, so.
Yeah.
See none? All right. Okay, go ahead, Councilor.
Through the chair to Councillor Middleton Hope, we will be back in front of council, we anticipate in Q2 of 2026 with a draft plan. We are trying to get this to you before CIP deliberations begin, since as it stands right now, public art is funded through the CIP. Before that, our understanding is we don't have other opportunities to come back just because of the election timeline and changing council. So we recognize that just some of those, the challenges of the time in which we're trying to complete this work is going to limit our interactions formally with council to today's meeting, and then a draft plan coming forward in Q2 of 2026.
Okay, so you're going to base some of your decisions predicated on the feedback that you got today. You won't be seeking further feedback from council?
As it stands now, unless we can work to identify another mechanism to engage with council, we are absolutely open to engaging with council. We're just trying to navigate a tricky time with the election and changing council. But
right.
if council would like us to come back at another point in time, by all means, we can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bracken. And thank you, Ms. Adair, as well. Appreciate it. I have the following resolution signed by Councillor Campbell. The Public Art Master Plan Update, Council Engagement 5.2. Be resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee refers the feedback on the Public Art Master Plan Update to administration and to inform plan development, and request administration return to the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee with a complete draft of the updated master plan by the end of Q2 2026. Councillor Campbell?
Thank you for coming here and presenting today, and hopefully we've given some feedback that you can go and take away with you, but we look forward to the complete draft coming up in the Q2 2026, whoever that may be. With that, I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Perfect. And before you go, Ms. Bracken, I know we have item number 7 here. That's 7.1, response to inquiry regarding public art CIP funding allocation, and 7.2, response to inquiry regarding public art CIP funding breakdown. And then after that, we will go right on to the encampment. Does anyone, you don't have to, but it's just if any members of council of this, no, any member of council has a question regarding this. Any questions? Seeing them, Ms. Bracken, you're fine. Thank you very much. Thank you for doing that, reminding me. 5.3? No. Moving right along. Thank you for your patience, and this presentation, if it takes as long as it need be, we're no rush as well. We want to make sure we have an open dialogue here today. Item 5.3 regarding the encampment strategy council update. And I don't have anyone who's signed to it, but then we have 5.31. Is it Mr. Malcolm? You'll be speaking to this. So do you want to go right on to 5.31? Andrew Malcolm, General Manager, CSD, regarding encampment strategy council update. And thank you once again for everyone for their patience. And welcome, Mr. Malcolm.
Thank you. I will be very quick. I'm going to turn things over to my team. But to start, good afternoon, members of SPC. This item today is an opportunity to report back to both council or SPC and the community on the first 2 years of operations under the city's encampment strategy. These are not easy jobs, but our dedicated team tackle this important work with empathy, discipline, and integrity in every interaction. They keep people safe and they reduce risk in our community, and they are creating pathways to services for some of our most vulnerable residents. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the entire team today, because I haven't done that in the first 2 years, and of those individuals that are out on the street making this improvements. So first, Samantha Algren is our operations manager. Sean Middleton, Dylan Arve, and Carissa Kingston make up our encampment response team. Richard Dymuth and Kevin Sloan make up our outreach team. Matthew Pitcher is our housing solutions coordinator. And our partners, Sergeant Ryan Dara, Sarah Amies, and Glenn Elgersma from Clean Sweep program. I'll now turn it over to the team who will walk you through the highlights of our operations to date, what we've learned, and where we're headed next.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm, and welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sean Middleton. I've been with the In-Camera Response since its inception in 2023. Today, I'll be presenting on the first 21 months of the In-Camera Response. Today, we are asking for our report to be accepted as information and that our bi-monthly In-Camera update be changed to annual updates because we believe this is a stable service and not a new program. Looking back at 2022, before our current encampment strategy, we can see that 2022's approach was uncoordinated, under-resourced, and expensive, leading to an inconsistent approach and little support to people residing in encampments. Our current strategy is a compassionate and adaptive response to the complex and evolving challenges of homelessness and encampments in Lethbridge, focusing on reducing encampment entrenchment and connecting individuals to housing and support services. Despite persistent pressure that shaped this dynamic issue, we remain committed to refining our approach, strengthening partnerships, and advancing systematic housing solutions that reduce the reliance on encampments and restore dignity to all residents.
So in 2024, we conducted a PIT count. So the point-in-time count supports the community's safety, community well-being safety strategy, as well as the municipal housing strategy and the encampment strategy. The point-in-time count is conducted as part of the Government of Canada's Reaching Home funding and was coordinated locally by the City of Lethbridge and partner agencies. This coordinated effort established methodology, definitions, and agreed upon areas that the PIT count was conducted. There are several mechanisms used in Lethbridge to measure homelessness, which included the PIT count. We also use the by names list. So the by names list is continuously updated and aims to track individuals over time. The point-in-time count provides a snapshot of homelessness on a single night in the community. So on October 9th of the fall of last year, a total of 522 individuals were identified as experiencing homelessness here. This represents 15% increase compared to the 2022 count. While the number has grown, the rate of increase has slowed from the average annual increase of 19.5% between 2018 and 2022 to just roughly 7.1%. Unsheltered spaces saw an increase of 26% when compared to 2022. Information gathered from this PIT count can assist to identify characteristics of homelessness and ongoing service needs in our community.
Now let's have a look at the first 21 months of the encampment response. Since the start of the encampment response, members of the public have submitted almost 3,000 311 complaints. Encampment complaints represent 52% of the total amount of complaints. Both encampment and debris complaints go directly to my team, and needle and biohazard complaints are sent to our partners with the Clean Sweep program. After encampment or debris complaint has been made, my team will respond and triage the encampment using our 16-factor risk assessment, placing the encampment into our 1, 2, and 3-tier triage system. Since its inception, the ERT has triaged over 2,200 encampment-related sites. The team was able to triage these reports within 2 business days of being received. Depending on the location and time that the report was received, often we were able to respond within minutes of receiving it. In response to the growing number of encampments in identified hotspot areas, more frequent coordinated cleanups have been conducted. These efforts aim to prevent entrenchment while maintaining public spaces and addressing community concerns. 85,000 kilograms of debris have been removed through coordinated cleanups alone. I just want to acknowledge on this slide that the data in the description is not accurate. I will be reading off the accurate data and the public report will be fixed. During this period, positive public sentiment rose from 2.6 to 28.6%, and negative sentiment dropped from 70.7% to 55%. These improvements show the importance of a consistent approach and an accessible reporting process. Data shown in 2024 shows a normalization of the response. One of the main goals of the encampment strategy is that encampments do not become entrenched. Encampments are becoming concentrated within certain locations, increasing service levels. The ERT is actively monitoring hotspot locations to ensure entrenchment levels do not increase. During coordinated cleanups, weapons and fire hazards like propane tanks and torches are removed. Members of the ERT, Outreach, LPS, and Clean Sweep assist the encampment occupant in the safe packing of their items and the removal of unwanted items and garbage. In 2024, the encampment response team and outreach staff were authorized and trained to carry and administer naloxone. This decision was driven by the need to reduce reliance on emergency services and provide faster on-site response to overdose events. Since implementation, naloxone has been deployed multiple times by city staff, contributing to the improved outcomes and reduced strain on emergency services. Lethbridge Fire has reported a 11% reduction in total calls and a reduction in outdoor fires by 28%. LPS reported a 16% reduction in calls. Our team has coordinated with fire prevention officers to assess and address high-risk sites, the proactive removal of hazardous materials, and fire safety education for encampment occupants. We're always looking for innovative ways to work together, so working with partners such as LPS utilizing bikes and working more proactively in call gardens.
In August of 2024, we brought outreach services in-house. This shift allowed us to implement a more structured, person-centered approach to supporting individuals who are experiencing homelessness. Some tangible results that we have seen since the transition have been significant. There's been a 263% increase in intakes, a 318% increase in successful referrals. 54 new unique individuals have been connected to the system of care that have not been accessing traditional resources previously. And most notably, 19 individuals exited homelessness in comparison to 0 in 2023 by the previous service provider. So a successful referral is whether or not the referral that is made has a positive outcome. So that's something like somebody being able to obtain ID. And somebody that is successfully housed is a person being connected either to natural supports, addiction treatment, or is housed through a housing service provider with the necessary and consistent resources for the individual to stay housed. So what made this work? Integration with the encampment response team has improved coordination and accountability. Our outreach team develops individualized case plans focusing on housing readiness and long-term stability. We maintain ongoing support until the individuals are stably housed, which helps reduce service drop-off. We've been able to implement data and system improvements. So in early 2025, the team was fully onboarded to HIFIS, which is the Federal Homelessness, Individuals, and Families Information System. This has enhanced our services being able to track individuals as well as coordinate services across all the agencies in Lethbridge, and being able to also limit duplication for services. Some expanded outreach practices that we've implemented since the change is expanding our scope to supporting with out-of-town transports. This helps individuals reconnect with natural supports in their home communities, where this can be a key factor in long-term stability. We have also been able to support as well as transportation to treatment programs where there may not be convenient ways for individuals to be able to get to those places.
In Q1 2025 alone, the ERT responded to 80% of the total encampment incidences recorded in all of 2024. Our outreach team is managing high caseloads with limited housing options. There is optimism with the future, with future housing options coming online. Hopefully our future updates will reflect this. These trends are compounded by complex issues like the growing number of individuals with mental health, substance use, and trauma-related needs. While both ERT and internal outreach services have responded with agility, the scale of need continues to grow and will require ongoing adaptation. Next slide. Homelessness and safety issues relating to encampments are always changing and evolving. The encampment response team and outreach are utilizing new technology to better support individuals with client needs and locate encampments that may present a fire risk in the river bottom. Next slide. We remain committed to listening to community feedback and incorporating it into operational response, evaluating outcomes and adjusting tactics based on evidence, and investing in people, partnerships, and systems that support long-term change. As we look ahead, the focus is clear. Ensure that public spaces are safe and welcoming for all, while supporting individuals experiencing homelessness with dignity, compassion, and purpose. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you and your team. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this issue at this time? And welcome. And thank you for your patience as well, sir.
Thank you. My name is Barry Ewing, and I was one of the first who pushed for the encampment strategy while I worked as a security guard at City Hall in March of 2022. I observed an early increase in sleeping rough issues around Civic Center and City Hall area and was concerned this trend would grow after my research into the addiction crisis across North America since 2016. I then looked at how other cities were dealing with encampments and came up with a plan which I presented to the mayor in a meeting that spring. We all saw what happened that summer at the Civic Center track area and the old YMCA grassy area without a strategy in place. From the beginning, I had stated that you cannot allow people to set up, and if you do, the clock starts ticking, and every moment that passes, it becomes more difficult to remove them. The longer there, the more they believe it is their piece of property. You must move them right away, and there must be effective deterrence so they do not return. Then the word spreads to avoid the area. It was ignored. LPS, fire, and EMS were constantly called to the old YMCA area, even gunshots rung out from a gang member. These encampments became a hub for gang activity, criminal behavior, which included drug trafficking, violence, including assaults and sexual assaults, and even Johns being serviced by hookers nearby. Police investigations often revealed the presence of weapons, a criminal element, stolen goods and other contraband, stolen bicycles, and stolen shopping carts commonly found. How many shopping carts and children's wagons have been stolen? How many parents can no longer take their children for a bike ride because their bike with bike trailer has been stolen? In 2023, we saw some changes. In 2024, we saw a year with better success. But one area ignored was the shelter Eldorado area where encampments continued, giving the people the impression they could be there. And the other places, such as Galt Gardens, it was thought that setting up overnight and tearing down sometime the next day was fine. That was a bad idea. During the winter, I continued to report encampments as I walked through Galt Gardens regularly, and the trend became apparent that something was broken because they were moved and came back later to set up, with one individual in particular who spent a few weeks in a tent there using the electrical outlet for heat, for example. These are not people who have been met with some unfortunate circumstance that was put them on the streets or can no longer afford rent due to rent increases or job losses. These are the criminals who arrive in our city every spring, refusing to live in a shelter because it prevents them from conducting their criminal activities such as prostitution, drug dealing, break-and-enters to businesses, homes, and vehicles, stolen goods brokering, bicycle thefts, human trafficking, and in some cases, weapons procurement and property damage. And they stay up till 4 a.m., till 6 a.m., then sleep during the day. I see them at Galt Gardens sleeping after I saw them out at night selling drugs, sex, doing graffiti in my neighborhood when police are really rarely seen. These are seasoned encampment, sleeping rough veterans who have been on the streets for years in many cases, and their new recruits quickly learn how to bend laws, manipulate police and other agencies as they continue their lawless behavior. The city has allowed this to progress around the shelter for the last couple of years, around a new shelter that the taxpayer just paid $5 million to renovate. The multi-agency team moves in to clean up the encampments, but those moved stage within a block, piling up their backpacks, tarps, tents, shopping carts, wagons, etc., and wait for a couple hours until around 3 p.m. Then they move back and set up in the same place or close by. No one stops as they return until someone like myself has to send in another report online for the same people in the same area. This isn't success. It is a failure. The shelter has room for these people, so there is no excuse for them to be on the streets. I've heard many false accusations and excuses why they will not stay in the shelter. None are valid or true. They will never stay in a shelter because the streets are where they conduct their illegal business. It is their storefront. We have met our legal obligations to provide shelter and housing, and if they are on private land, then the owner should be responsible or give police agent status so they can act in removing them. It not only impacts downtown, but the whole city. Why are we allowing these criminals to freely come to our community with the intent of committing crimes, hanging out the welcome sign by enabling them? As they grow in numbers, you see increase in major organized crimes such as the Hells Angels. The mistakes made in dealing with this issue have long-term impacts to our community, which cost the taxpayer and businesses who are already not happy with property taxes. Why are we wasting taxpayer money performing the same task over and over and over again with no solution to stop the cycle? Every time LPS has to attend to clean up these encampments, it takes away valuable time they could be used to solve crimes or prevent crime. They are already stretched thin. Why are we funding nonprofits who work against the city by supplying tents and tarps for them to illegally encamp? Why are we allowing nonprofits who are benefactors of funding to dictate how we deal with people sleeping rough or in encampments? Why are these criminals given preference over the business owners, the taxpayers, and the citizens? And why are we allowing communities nearby to dictate administration, council, how we are to deal with the issues on our streets? Are they paying the taxes in our city or electing our members of council? Hundreds of people from out of town exit Highway 3 to conduct business on 2nd Avenue North. What kind of impression are they left with? Is there no pride left in the administration of the city? I have heard concerns that we will just push them into the coulees, where it is hard to remove them, or civil actions which will cost the taxpayer. A lawsuit in Phoenix where the community care camp has failed and business owners sued to shut down encampments around them set precedent which other cities now use. The encampment strategy has failed this year, and not because of the dedicated people on the front lines. Who has the will to fix this, to shutting them down before they become the norm? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this issue at this time? And feel free to just come to the mic. State who you are, and please, you have 5 minutes.
My name is Lance Krugman. I'm the owner of the Kitchen Center and Lealta Building Supplies. I've been in that location for 26 years. I've seen a drastic increase of encampments over the last few years and a decrease of retail traffic in my stores because of the encampments and people that go into the yard to pick up materials. It is a constant concern and it's a constant conversation. The encampment team, outreach team, and Lethbridge Police Force do an excellent job at what they're doing, but the homeless people are leaving, hiding around the corner, and come back at 5 and set back up in the exact same spot with the exact same tents and the shopping carts, and it is a revolving door of work on their part. And we are not seeing improvements of the encampments. We are seeing an increase of encampments. in my backyard. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you for taking your time to be here today as well. Anyone else in the community who would like to speak on this issue at this time? And welcome, and just state your name at the mic. That would be greatly appreciated.
Good afternoon. My name is Robin James. We are the owner of the Lethbridge Wellness Shelter. Lethbridge Housing is. Just like to speak to you today about a couple of things. First of all, the outreach team with the City of Lethbridge, the encampment strategy, the reason behind the encampment strategy started to ensure that encampments weren't becoming entrenched. They have done a great job, an absolute excellent job of ensuring it's not entrenched. They're there once to twice a week. They're cleaning up to 1,000 kilograms of garbage a week. That's going to the landfill, and then they come back and they do it again. So their data shows in 2023 that they were doing about 500 kilograms of garbage per cleanup. Now they're doing over 1,000 kilograms of garbage per cleanup. We did our best to expand that shelter and get that shelter prepared so that there was no question that there was room for people in a safe environment, which would be air-conditioned, heat, bathrooms, running water, everything. I've even put an outdoor faucet. We have taken some steps to open a 90-unit motel. We have 30 units available. The encampment team does bring forward names towards that. But if there's no reason for people to leave their encampment, if it's simply clean up once a week, someone comes, cleans up your yard, you reset up, what are we doing, is my question. So at some point, we need some political will. On our behalf, Lethbridge Housing, we are building more units than we've built in a long time. We are doing our best. We are lobbying the provincial government to assist us. But we need political will from this municipality to take this to the next step. So it's not about just cleaning up 1,000 pounds or 1,000 kilograms of garbage per week and resetting up tents. It's about transitioning people through a housing continuum and getting them the support they need. So I hope that council will consider taking this encampment strategy to the next step of removing stolen property from those individuals that possess stolen property, looking at taking away the ability for them to continue to live in an encampment, and forcing your hand on an encouragement to get them into the shelter, to get them the services they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. James. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this issue at this time? For a second time? And for a third and final time? We'll now move to questions. Now, what I'll do with questions is members of the committee, as well as members who are not on the committee, will ask the questions. I just ask that the appropriate person who's most appropriate to come up and answer. I know we have representation from the police service, the encampment strategy, as also we have people who made presentations. So feel free to, we'll go like that. And we'll start with Councillor Crowson.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, I'm not sure who will answer this one. This one's quite specific. I've been approached by people.
If you can speak right into your microphone, that'd be great. There.
I'm not loud enough, that's rare. I've been approached by some people with businesses on 2nd A Avenue, and we've heard some here today, who are concerned about some of the problems. People undressing, bio-waste, loitering, people who will not leave, and even when asked, will not leave. Businesses are frustrated. So what is being done around 2nd A Avenue to address some of these concerns, whether within the encampment strategy or with, among our other processes, to ensure that those businesses are being supported?
I'd probably recommend Mr. Malcolm, you sit up there probably throughout this meeting. No, just for the reason being, you'll be able to facilitate who the most appropriate person is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to start, and then I will ask Sergeant Dara to come up and assist. So one of the things that I've directed our team, and I know they're out there doing on a regular basis, is actually engaging with those businesses on the 2nd Avenue, making themselves available when we're out doing cleanups, explaining what we're doing and what our process is. And so I know our team is engaging with those businesses on a regular basis. Beyond that, in terms of what we're doing, our team with the encampment and outreach, we don't have the enforcement ability. So we are out there, we are working to notify them, give notice, come back, working with our outreach to connect to services, and then working with LPS to take action. So that action piece is what I will turn over to Sergeant Dara to speak on. I know they have been ramping up
their efforts specifically in these areas where things are getting a little bit more difficult.
And thank you very much for all the work you've been doing. I know you've been on the front lines for probably, Ryan, probably 7 or 8 years on this. Oh,
Is that podium as high as it can go, or can it go?
thank you very much, Sergeant.
Those years have flown by, man.
Yeah, I know they go by fast.
When it comes to how we're addressing those problems, and especially in like the 1200 block of 2A Avenue North, it's just trying to have more of a presence. We have seen an increase in shoplifting from some of the businesses in that area. And now we're looking at retooling that slope. We're working very closely with the city and looking at some options of what we can do to change it. Whether that's removal of the fence, adding a different fence, putting a different substance down on the ground, cement, rocks, whatever it may be. This is not a solution, right? We are addressing problems in different areas. Earlier this year, it was more along the 200 block of 8th Street North, and we put some pressure on there, which has moved over to the 100 block of Stafford. So we will continue to overcome these issues, but at some point, it's going to move to a different location as well. So I do appreciate the fact that it does impact the businesses there, and that's unacceptable.
Well, and there's two questions that come out of that. One, the SEPTED grant that we have downtown. Mr. Malcolm, does that work in that area? Can those businesses apply for it? Again, it's not the one-all solution, but does that give them any opportunity? Can they apply?
So the urban revitalization area manages the grant, but we are always making recommendations to those businesses in the area to reach out to Crystal Scheidt and Justin Schipper within that department and get those supports. So I know a number of them have already, and some new tenants or new owners in the area are currently having those conversations as we speak.
But it does apply to that area?
It does, yes.
So it's getting that information out there to people. The other thing that we hear concerns about all the time, are we solving the problems or moving the problems? It's one of those concerns that we hear all the time, even with the 311 calls. On paper, it looks good. But is that because people are happier or because they've given up and just aren't going to call anymore? So what do we tell people? Is this just the Band-Aid until we get housing and everything else in place and we can't expect this to be the solution, or are we solving things?
I would say that we are solving problems. We are not solving all the problems. So we were very clear when we established the encampment strategy that it was not a silver bullet. It wasn't going to fix everything. It would be largely moving people around. And if we had the opportunity by offering supports and connecting people to pluck people out of that situation, then we would be supporting them. In the same time, council supported the inclusion of a housing solutions coordinator as part of that. And that work has been having huge payoffs, in my opinion, as albeit many of them are just being announced this week and in the coming days. So the work that has been going on beyond the on-the-ground encampment strategy has seen results in terms of the announcement yesterday for the YWCA transitional. There is Aboriginal Housing Society's announcement tomorrow, LHA's permanent supportive housing, the shelter expansion, and there are other projects in the wings that will help with solutions. As I flip back to what we see on the street, you will see that in the numbers in that we've presented, the increase is declining. So not just the encampment strategy, but all those efforts are having an impact, and we can see that in the data. Beyond that, again, with the reduced call volumes to LPS and to fire, we are having an impact with and no disrespect to my staff, but a much cheaper staff and resourcing than the uniformed officers that we have. So there's an impact and a solution there. The other piece is we're removing...
Cheaper in what we pay them, not in their value.
100%. And the other piece is that we are removing a substantial amount of weapons and other devices like open flames that are safety risks. And that number, the decrease of outdoor fires is significant. 2023, we had a number of structure fires that were related to homelessness and people sleeping rough. So those are all, in my opinion, good solutions or good outcomes of this strategy. Again, it's not necessarily that we've eradicated or solved homelessness, but that was never the intent of the strategy.
No, it is interesting how you are sandwiched between some of the good news stories around housing, et cetera, and then there's the ongoing land use bylaw. So there's a lot of pieces moving around. It's just you always get the complaints because of the job that you are in. So, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Milton Hope.
Thank you. So I'll direct my questions to Mr. Malcolm, and you can see who is most appropriate. Mr. Malcolm, I don't believe that this is a housing issue. This is a criminal issue. We have plenty of housing. We have a shelter that is running most often at about 50% occupancy during this time of year. So when we say that it is a housing issue, how do we equate housing with criminal behavior and the fact that we have ample space for people? It's a matter of we're not able to get these people into the shelter. Would you agree with that?
I would partially agree with that. I think housing has a big component to play, and we're addressing that because that's what fits within our box within CSD, and we work with our partners on that. The criminality part, we look to our partners with Lethbridge Police Service, and they're doing some incredible work there. So we don't want to overstep into their space. Let Sergeant Dara speak to the legality or the work that they're doing. And then enforcing people into the shelter, we just don't have that ability. We don't have that legal right. So right now, that doesn't fall to us either. There's some work on legislation being developed on compassionate intervention. We'll see where that goes and what those implications are. But we can't force people to go anywhere. So what we're looking at is partnering with the operator of the shelter, the owner of the shelter, and other agencies to encourage and better support those individuals in understanding why they're not going in and where we can break down those barriers. We're having a little bit of success, but there are many reasons, and some that are probably more related to Sergeant Dara's response around the criminality side of things.
Are we seeing that the users of the encampments are beginning to understand and are circumventing our processes now?
I'll maybe ask if Mr. Middleton will come up and speak to that. I don't know if they're circumventing per se, but I'll let him speak to that.
Well, I think what we've heard from some of the people that operate businesses down there, we go in, we do an excellent job at removing the encampments to ensure that they're not entrenched. However, they set up around the corner in front of businesses. They impede business activity. So that to me looks like they're circumventing the process. Is that or is that not happening?
There's definitely a few people out there that have kind of learned our process, and they do with it as they do to kind of prevent people from staying in front of businesses as well. So after that cleanup, we will utilize the police that are already out with us to kind of get people away from businesses as well to prevent future complaints as well to LPS.
Okay, are we having successes with that?
Getting them moved in front of businesses, yes.
Okay, are you finding that you're dealing with the same people over and over and over again?
100%, yes. A lot of the people we deal with are the same people. We do run into a lot of people that are fresh to homelessness. Usually with Outreach's help, they can get out of the situation they're in, but we do run into, I don't want to estimate, but around 50 of the same people continually.
If I could just add quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
When we developed the encampment strategy with council, we included level of service in terms of expectations. So we created a process where a member of public could report of encampment. We would then go out, triage it, and respond to it within a set period of days. That is what we are doing. Mm-hmm. If council expects a different level of service, then that's a conversation we can have, and that comes with resources and ultimately cost. The ability for us to follow people around will come at a great cost to the city. So if you look behind me, I have a small team of 5. They operate 5 days a week between regular business hours. Any sort of expansion of that, the number of people or the number of hours is going to come again with a financial cost, and we'll need those resources to be able to do that.
A question to Sergeant Dara then. Sergeant Dara, are we conducting ongoing research to determine what we can do with the belongings that these people leave or take with them? For example, things like seizing shopping carts, which are stolen property. Are there other activities that we can utilize? And is there research that we are doing in partnership with other communities like Edmonton, for example, that will lend us a different type of outcome that perhaps is more favorable to removing people from the street and getting them into the help that they need?
Yes. So,
okay.
I've built some bridges with friends who do my job with Edmonton Police Service, Calgary, Vancouver. The hurdles that we are facing right now are the exact same issues that these larger cities are having. When it comes to the removal of property specifically from people in encampments, that is a officer pressure point at that time. That officer has the discretion to give them some time to move along. Our main message and goal within the encampment strategy is compliance, to get them packed up with their belongings, to move along and not to leave so much of a scar on the earth when they're gone, right? Especially within the River Valley. I'm proud that we've been successful in doing that. We have had, especially I would say in the past 2 months since the weather has warmed up, a growing trend of like wagon trains, of someone towing along 10, 11, 12 wagons behind them. You're not wrong, that's unacceptable. And that's something that I can have my team address. And as we're having officers go out in the coming weeks for cleanups, we can put more pressure on that point for sure. As for researching new legislation, we're aware of what's going on. We are confident in our current situation, and I don't want to be overly aggressive in that. We don't want to cross the line into destroying someone's property that we shouldn't be. When we do these cleanups, you can tell whether it's something covered in fecal matter or a special backpack that they're keeping sacred close to them. Property is property, but different things get dealt with in a different way, and that's up for us to deal with, and our awesome encampment response team and clean sweep team to deal with. So we've been successful at that, and can we do better? Yes, and will we? We will.
Last question, Mr. Chair. The communities that you've consulted with, do you find that there is a more aggressive approach? I mean, we certainly had a less aggressive approach 2 or 3 years ago. We have a more aggressive approach today. Let's say it's more assertive. Are there communities out there, Edmonton's, Vancouver's, Calgary's, that are more assertive than we are? And are they getting better results?
To be open and honest, I would say that Calgary is probably the gold standard. They're also incredibly well-resourced, and they have layered police, bylaw, police, bike, foot teams within their downtown core, so they do have a handle on this. I aspire to be like them, but we just don't have those resources. Aggressive-wise, I'm confident where we're at. We make good choices, we make safe choices that balance the equation of getting them along in a respectful manner. But we also have those people who are taking advantage of people within our encampments, and I proudly say that we use enforcement, whether that's criminal charges for mischief, which we have laid and had successful prosecutions within the provincial courthouse. And we're one of the first cities, the police services in Alberta that has had successful convictions for that. So.
Good. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much. I don't have questions for you, Sergeant Darrow. Thank you very much, but I do have questions for you, Mr. Malcolm. So going through the presentation, some of the data and stats, I've got some questions around that. How are we monitoring those exiting homelessness to ensure they're successful? So we have seen that increase, small, but we've seen an increase in that happening. How do we follow up with those who have exited to ensure that they stay exited?
To Richard or Kevin from our outreach team, I would say that our primary focus is to get them out of the situation they're in, and then not necessarily manage their case beyond that, but I will let them come and speak a little bit more to the details.
Thank you.
So one of the things we do is when they are housed, we do connect them with housing support. So whether that is through a community agency that will do follow-up with them to ensure that their basic needs are met, they have a good relationship with their landlord, their rent's being paid, so we get them to refer to those resources. If it is outside those housing resources, whether it's addictions, treatment, we do follow up to ensure that they're still in treatment kind of within that next month to make sure they don't need supports anymore. So one individual that did go to treatment outside of our city, we did follow up within the month and say, hey, are you still connected? Are you needing any supports, and they said, well, I'm going to remain in that community. Other ones that we connect to family members, we'll follow up with the family members, whether they're in Calgary, Medicine Hat, up in Ponoka, and say, hey, did they arrive safely if we didn't transport them, if it was via the bus? And yes, so we kind of try and do that warm handoff as best as possible that way as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Going back to some of the data, Mr. Malcolm, on one of the slides, we saw a significant increase in encampments in Q1 2024 and Q1 2025. So we can compare those two time periods together. What do we increase, or what do we attribute that increase to, and how are we working on that?
Just to be clear, your question is with the encampment reports, what is contributing to the increase?
Yeah, so that's the encampment report side.
Yeah, so
the breakdown, the
yeah.
quarterly breakdown.
So I will ask Mr. Middleton to come up as well. I will start by saying that our community is becoming more and more knowledgeable about how to report encampments. Okay. So that's a contributing factor. And the other piece would be that with the concentration of encampments in certain areas, those businesses or individuals that are impacted are making multiple reports. And I will let Mr. Milton come and add anything else further to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, a couple other factors that happened this year was I believe our winter was a little bit more milder, so a lot more people throughout the colder months did stay out in encampments as well. Another factor with that is they're getting more devices, say propane tanks, to heat their tents as such, so it's becoming easier to stay. And then as well as we are seeing a lot more people who are from the community or the area who are just trying it out instead of staying in either the shelter or where they were housed before as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So then back to you, Mr. Malcolm, what do we need to be successful in getting these numbers down? What supports do you believe your team needs?
That's a difficult question. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think resources. So we have as many people as we can with our current budget. And ultimately, there's just not enough hours in the day. And on the days or on the weeks where we really ramp up, so we did a targeted blitz with LPS of the shelter area a number of weeks ago, where we did 4 coordinated cleanups in 1 week. That takes a pretty significant toll on my staff, mentally and physically. So to be able to do that type of thing on a regular basis would require more people, allowing to do a rotation and allow a break for individuals. As I started off with, this is a pretty demanding area of work for the staff, and so I think the easiest answer would just be resources.
Okay. And just, I'm going to go back to a conversation we had at the Intercity Forum a few weeks back. How much are we investing in this annually?
So we have an annual budget of $500,000 for the encampment response, and then there's $260,000 that was previously approved in the operating budget for outreach.
Okay.
So combined, we're at $760,000.
And how much of this is our responsibility to be taken care of?
That is a difficult question. It goes alongside the housing and a lot of the social things. I would say this is a multi-governmental responsibility. We were a little bit disappointed that we did not receive federal encampment funds to help bolster our efforts. So right now, this is a fully municipally funded operation in Lethbridge. We would have the opportunity to explore the integration of federal reaching home funds in the future for our outreach side. Our encampment response side would not be in alignment with their eligibility. So there would be ways in the future where we could look to bolster our efforts without being fully on the municipal taxpayer. However, I will acknowledge then that is less reaching home funds that we'd have available to distribute into the community.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll step up for now, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Campbell.
Hey, Mr. Chair, Mr. Malcolm, again, great report, and thanks for all that you've been doing. I see Ms. James just left, but she had mentioned if council has the political will to improve the situation that we're in with the things that she mentioned, since she's not here, but I thought when you hear that, what is your response to something like that? What is the political will of council to improve the conditions that we're in? Or what can that look like? Because I don't really know.
Yeah, so, and I'm sure Robin would feel comfortable with me saying this because we had a conversation just in the hall before. My opinion is I don't know how much more political will at the council level would change because we're up against charter rights of freedoms and different things like that, privacy and people's right to belongings and shelter. So we're navigating a very difficult space, and we feel that our strategy balances the approach, and we're doing a really good job of that. To push that line further, we would have to do so in consultation with our legal department to make sure that we aren't overstepping in any way. So that side of that, I would leave it at that. And then again, the other piece would be resources. We can still do what we do today, just twofold, threefold, fourfold. It's all money at the end of the day.
Can I, Sergeant Darrow, if you don't mind, it's not really I guess I'm not really asking a question, but I just when I see you, and it's hard not to see you, you know, we talk about gold standards, and you're certainly the gold standard when it comes to improving the encampment strategy that we've got going. And so I just wonder, I mean, because you've been doing this for so long, you've created all of the relationships that you've created. You've seen how things have gone down. You've seen how it works. And I just wonder, as you stand here today, what goes through your mind? Where we were, how we got here, how it's going, and your optimism or lack or not. I'm sure it's optimism moving forward with what we've got, with the resources that we have.
Are you sure you want to go down this road?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
First off, I would say I'm proud of where we're at. We're in a good spot compared to my brothers and sisters in Edmonton and Calgary. I think we're doing a little bit better than Edmonton, not as well as Calgary, to be very honest with you. And our encampment strategy is top notch. We have a good group of great people who work very hard, which we see the results of that every single week, alongside the fact that my team got funded with 5 extra bodies in January for the downtown police unit. That makes things a lot easier. We do address encampments outside of the scope of the encampment response team. Like if my team's working on a Saturday and someone's set up in Galt, we're going in there, we're moving them along. If there's an encampment on private property, that comes into the police service as a call for service, and a patrol member goes and addresses that. Those numbers are captured outside of the encampment strategy as well. What keeps me going, I guess, is what we're asking. We're moving in a positive direction, and I keep saying, like, we have 416 Stafford is a great option. It's opening in the fall. That's going to get some people off the streets. We do have a number of people that are living rough on the street who are sober, who are compliant, who just have good hearts, and they're going to have a great home there. So. Yep. That's honestly where we're going. The ship is in the right direction. We just need to get there.
Great. I mentioned this in council once before when I was doing the McHappy Days thing downtown, and I talked to the owner of McHappy Days and talked about the increased presence of downtown police force. They said it was night and day. So that's really, so I just wanted to pass that on to you, that it was great to hear that. So thank you. That's all I have.
Councillor Crowson.
Thank you again, Chair. So I'll start with you, Sergeant Darrow. You did mention that Calgary has some resources we don't have. If money should magically appear, what is the one resource Calgary has that you'd most like to see in Lethbridge? And it's not going to magically appear, but anyways.
They're just more resource when it comes down to their downtown core. They have like a foot patrol team, a bike team, a patrol team, all layered on top of each other, working in the same area together, along with a expanded bylaw officer, like a peace officer program, which we do have one of those. It would just be nice to see that expanded, along with, I would love an extra 8 members of my team.
Okay, so we'll pass it on to the Police Commission that you would like more members. But let's talk more about the bylaw officer, because that is within our mandate. Have you passed those concerns on to Mr. Malcolm and his team? Because if that is something we should be working on, is it strengthening the bylaw? Is it resourcing that area more? What is the thing that we could be doing better in that area?
Well, I believe that answer might be better suited for someone with more things on their shoulder than myself, Councillor. But okay. It would be definitely advantageous to have a partner agency within the city with bylaw officers enforcing things downtown. But our peace officer program has landed within the police service.
Okay, so it's the coordination between them and strengthening there. Okay, something that we might need to look at a bigger area.
Like our peace officer program is awesome, but unfortunately many of those people move on to be police officers, so we're always hiring new ones. So it's
Yeah, they do tend to move on there instead of staying in that area. And we are under-resourced in the bylaw officers in this building as well. So, yeah, understand completely. Mr. Malcolm, it sort of just slipped in here, but I'd like to look at it more from a governance perspective. The decision to bring outreach services in-house has resulted in a 263% increase in intakes and a 318% increase in referrals. You never mentioned what in-house is, but it is City of Lethbridge is the in-house, correct?
That is correct. So when we started off, I think we got approval in May and we were operational in June. So we went out with a contracted outreach service, which more or less aligned with how the operating budget initiative was written. And we had a contracted agency, and it proved challenging. We had clear expectations of council, and we were having to manage those out to an outside agency through a contract. That did not allow for timely adjustments to things. It meant that they may have had their own mandate that maybe was not in alignment with the direction we were having. And then we were having challenges with the actual outcomes and the data quality. An example is as we went out and did kind of spot visits to check on the quality of the work, there would be individuals that were not being offered services, and we would engage as to why not. And they'd say, well, we offered them yesterday, and they turned them down. Our approach is that we offer them every single day. We are relentless in giving them the opportunity, not knowing if we hit them on a good day where they may be open to those services. So, and then there's a whole list of other things that are process improvements that we've been able to do. Another important one that I'll just highlight is the ability to transport. So it's a gap that we've heard over and over again for a number of years is the transportation of individuals, not just within the community, but potentially to other communities. And that's an area that we have been able to fill in. And as touched on by our team, we've had success in connecting individuals to their natural supports and getting them back to their home communities. And that's not buying them a bus ticket and sending them away, because we get frustrated here when we hear about those potentially happening to us. This is about connecting with those natural supports, making sure they get there, sometimes even transporting them there ourselves.
Thank you. I mean, great news story. But one of the things the City of Lethbridge has done for many decades is we contract everything out, right? We think we're going to save money, so whether it's rec and culture or in this area, we contract it out and we basically become contract managers. It may save money, and I would argue that it doesn't necessarily, but it may save money, but often it gives a lesser service because we cannot ensure the service is being offered in all cases. Sometimes we get wonderful service. We work with great partners. Is there anything else in your department that you would suggest from a governance level that City Council look at bringing in-house? And if it's above your pay grade, Ms. Kleisinger's just really jumped when I asked that. And it may be at this point more of a theoretical discussion, because is there something we could do better? Because maybe because we're in it. So if Ms. Kleisinger wants to take that, she might want to save you that answer, Mr. Malcolm.
I don't mind starting, but she can. Council has approved a 2-year term position for a community safety specialist. That was an outcome of the Downtown Lawlessness Reduction Task Force. That person's now in their position, and they're now starting to work on an update to our community safety strategy. One of the pieces that we are including in the scope of that is to review all of our services that are related to community safety. So there will be a review of things like the diversion outreach team, the clean sweep program, the watch program, and our relationship with LPS. Things like bylaw, we envision will be to some level. Emergency service, there will be some level of oversight and review of those things as it relates to community services, and whether or not there's a desire to look at other options. So I'd say that to that extent, we're looking at it, and beyond that, I'm going to defer to Ms.
So Ms. Kleisinger, would you agree that it's not off the table? If we can do it better in-house, and some things we might be able to and some aren't, are we looking into that as a way of getting some success in this area?
I do support Mr. Malcolm's answer. That's where I was going to start as well. When we did the Downtown Clean and Safe strategy back in 2017, what we did at the time, and we've always said this, was do our best to try and keep the lid from blowing off. And that was through funding and then adding funding and adding funding. So now there's a time where we need to start looking at more data-driven decisions. And that's where that community safety position will start looking at that and say, are we funding things appropriately and in what areas, and do they match up with council's and the community's priorities? So that work will be underway in the next 6 months. And then exactly to your point is if there are opportunities to bring things in-house or add more funding in one area and less in another based on priorities, we will be doing that.
Yeah, I'm not saying necessarily in-house or out-of-house is better, but let's just do it smarter rather than just throwing money at it.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Milton Hope.
Thank you. These questions are for Ms. Kleisinger. The first one, as we heard earlier about levels of government and requesting support. So have we contacted MP Thomas to request support for encampment funding? And is she an advocate for us in Ottawa?
I don't believe that we have specifically reached out to MP Thomas specifically because the way that the last funding program worked was the money was handed to the Alberta government for municipalities. So we did put together a fairly robust proposal for funding in partnership with LPS that we unfortunately didn't get that funding. So that was the connections through the provincial government in that for that funding that was just allocated in the spring.
And so in response to my question about Ms. MP Thomas, is this something that we're going to contemplate doing? Enlisting her to assist us in acquiring funding for the encampment strategies?
I think it's a good idea. We can certainly take back.
Okay, well, it came from the floor, so they can take it. The next question is in regards to providing authority and/or training to the encampment team. Is there an option to enhance their authority? Because there was a question earlier about a lack of authority in terms of being able to deal with some of the activities that they're dealing with. Short of making them CPOs or short of making them police officers, is there an opportunity here to enhance their authority and training such that they may be able to improve their response and assist the other agencies that they work with?
I think it's definitely something we could discuss. I would also like to go back to Mr. Lowen and Regulatory Services to see if there's gaps that we have in looking at some of the models that places like Calgary are doing with bylaw, and maybe start there and then see if there's something we could fill with bylaw services, and if there's a gap for our team, then we could definitely look at that.
Good. So there looks like there's about 3 or 4 good pieces that are coming out of this. Would we be expecting a response to that at the next update of the encampment strategy? It's quarterly, right?
What I think we're recommending is that this becomes more of a program that is we're updating council less regularly in this fashion just because not enough is changing and it's becoming more of our day-to-day work. But what I see in some of these different areas would be service level changes, and those would always come back to council. So outside of even an encampment update, if we were to be doing something different or requesting something different for the community, we would bring those back.
Well, I'd certainly like to see at least those questions that we've posed today answered at the next quarterly meeting, which will be, what, September?
Yeah, so today, if council were wanting to do something different, we would need to change the resolution, but what we're suggesting is now coming back annually. And then we could also look at finding updates to council in different formats, so information updates or things like that, but coming to council in this fashion, we're suggesting annually. So that would need to change if you wanted something different at SPC.
Well, I leave it to you, but no, I'm not prepared to support that in terms of if you are asking to let it go a year. I'd like to hear the responses to these questions sooner than that.
We can certainly get answers to your questions outside of the annual update.
Thank you.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Malcolm, questions for you again, please. So I just want to circle back to how we did not get Reaching Home funding. So how and where is our encampment strategy offside with that Reaching Home funding? And what do we need to change to ensure that we would be successful in the future?
Just to make sure we're clear, we do receive Reaching Home funding. The encampment side is
likely not eligible for Reaching Home, because Reaching Home is more targeted to the provision of the services. Our outreach side of it would be eligible for Reaching Home because it is directly connecting people to housing services. Our encampment team is more on that, I don't want to call it light enforcement, but is more on managing the public realm and the social disorder. Those are not considered by Reaching Home. The other piece of funding was the UHEI, which is the Unsheltered Homelessness and Encampment Initiative. That funding is what Ms. Kleisinger was referring to, came from the federal government to the provincial government to then distribute out. And that's the one that we put in a proposal and were unsuccessful with.
And what do we need to update then to become successful?
That I don't know.
Do we get feedback from the provincial government on that?
Ms. Kleisinger and I attended a meeting where we asked a number of questions, and I don't know if we got a ton of answers, but so I would say the short answer is no, we don't know.
Ms. Kleisinger, did you want to add to that?
What we have been told is that there were other proposals that were better than ours, so the money did come into our community, but just unfortunately not to the municipality to direct back into the resources of our own program.
Okay, thank you very much. And then my final question is that in the data, 60% of those polled in the point in time count said they had no housing because of housing costs, low wages, and lack of financial programs. Is there any work that the municipal government should be doing in these areas?
Well, fancy you should ask. The next item on the agenda is our municipal housing strategy. So under our municipal housing strategy, I would say we are doing a number of things and we're exploring a number of different areas. I think that the city of Lethbridge has done quite a bit of work in this area, and we can always do more.
Okay, and we'll look forward to that then. Thank you.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I can, through you to Ms. Kleisinger. Carly, you just said that the money did flow into our community through that grant that we were unsuccessful on. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Excellent. Do we know who it flowed to, and are they working with us? Is there a better way to work together, or because that's one of the challenges. We keep splitting funding, throwing it to Group A, Group B, C, D, E, F, G, rather than it being more focused. Do we know who the dollars went to, and are we working with them?
So I don't know if they formally made an announcement. So what Lethbridge Housing Authority was one of the recipients. And they created, it was the motel project that Ms. James spoke about. So that is actually something that formed part of our proposal. So something that we were supportive of. And our outreach team has been working very closely with Lethbridge Housing Authority, as she alluded to, in trying to connect and make referrals of individuals in the encampments to those units. Early days, I think they were just operational in April. So our hope is that we see some success building there. The other organization, while I don't know if it's been publicly disclosed, so I'm going to speak to it right now.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Any further questions in regards to this issue at this time? Seeing none, thank you very much. But I'm guessing there might be some questions after the resolution is read out, just in case, so please stand by. Have the following resolution signed by Councillor Milton Hope, item 5.3. Be it resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee receive the encampment strategy council update for information, and further be resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee recommend that council approve the adjustment of encampment strategy updates from bi-monthly to annually. First of all, is there any questions in regards to this resolution? Seeing none? There we go.
There we go.
Is this question or opening debate?
No, well, I can't support that because I'm opposed to going annually.
You could amend it to your own motion.
So I can, and I would be in favor of amending that to continuing the updates that we're doing on a quarterly basis as opposed to annual.
Actually, it's from bi-monthly.
Bi-monthly?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you would want it to stay that way, or do you want to go quarterly? It was fortuitous that you said the word quarterly. Would that be possible? Yeah, it's kind of in between.
Bi-monthly. So I would seek input from my colleagues who are on the committee to determine what they are interested in doing in terms of how frequently they are reported to.
You know, and I appreciate that. It seems like we're going from one extreme to the other, like going from like technically 6 updates a year to 1 a year. And I think quarterly would probably be the most appropriate. It could be kind of the middle, where I know it's a lot of work for our administration to always come back and all that, but I think this is such a paramount issue in our community, and it'll continue to be like that, unfortunately, for the near future. So I would say quarterly would probably be more realistic. Councillor Campbell?
Ask the committee or the people that give the report how cumbersome that would be, or how, what's the feeling on that? If we can do quarterly then, rather than annually.
Takes away 2 a year.
The reason of the change is the last number of updates have been relatively unchanging, so definitely would say bi-monthly would be too much. And so it was less about the resource intensity and more about the information not changing enough to warrant it to be that long. The other thing that we were just trying to consider is that it's become more of a program and less is changing. So if council wanted something that was quarterly, that is definitely doable. It was more just about what is the right amount of information to provide with enough that's changed to warrant an update.
Satisfy me if we went quarterly.
Or, and I don't want to play like some kind of auction here, but even twice a year. So okay, so you've heard the input.
Then I'll make the amendment.
And also, I'm actually going to entertain, even though they're not voting members of the committee, like other people, Councillor Carlson or Councillor Smith-Rempel. So I'm going to ask, entertain a discussion from you folks as well, if you'd be appreciated. So Councillor Carlson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I do appreciate administration wanting to go more annually. It does make sense to me because it's more of a program. It's ticking along. As I've noticed, the last few updates have been very much, yep, everything's coming along good. So especially when I hear the members of the encampment response team talk about they need more resources, they need more capacity, asking them to constantly fill out reports and take time off to show up for a 4-hour meeting seems to run counterintuitive to that. So maybe twice a year, as Councillor Parker, or Mr. Chairman, as you said, maybe what is it? Is it Solomon who split the baby in two? Anyways, I would support that, but every 2 months just seems to be a waste of very valuable and needed resources. So thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on? So let me see here. If I heard you correctly, Ms. Klessinger, if something comes up, it's not like it waits until the next meeting. Has council kept abreast of that, or would that come to the committee if something came up?
Just because we know this is a topic that council cares very much about, if anything comes up, we will most certainly add it to the agenda and bring something up to you. If there's a service level change, requesting any type of funding or anything that's urgent that you need to know about. We do have some other formats of which we can keep council abreast, and we can also update our website. So we have a number of options for council so that you're not kept out of the loop if anything changes.
So we could still, we don't need presentations, but we could still get information sent to us in regards to numbers, data, and all that.
Yes.
Which would be not only to council, but more importantly to the community as well, which would be uploaded on our website. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Councillor Milton Hope.
Sure. So
you're blinking there, and then
I am. Well, we're in the middle of debate here, so I'm now prepared to debate it. I think that.
What are we debating? We're debating the original.
So what I would propose is an amendment to the original motion.
And what would be your friendly amendment to yourself?
My friendly amendment to myself would be 4 times annually.
So quarterly.
Correct.
And so you would want the same in-depth presentations similar to what we had today? There's an
Oh,
expectation?
I think Ms. Kleisinger knows what we need to hear, and she's prepared to bring that information to us. And I think doing so in a public forum where we have the public is eligible to and able to ask questions is important. This is an important issue to us as a community, and I think it's important to continue to have a venue and an opportunity for people to ask questions.
Since you're the mover, you've accepted your friendly amendment.
I have.
So it's as amended. And I think, okay, perfect. And I think your debate was also the justification, what you just said there.
Correct.
And do we need any questions? Do you have any questions regarding this, Councillor Campbell?
I mean, I'm just sort of the thought of all we really would need is a submission. We don't necessarily need a full report every time. So I would suggest we can be quarterly with the submission, but if there is something major coming up, that would be a presentation, if that can be worded that way. That's all. Like Councillor Carlson was saying, everything that has been brought to us has been pretty much the same. And this was important because it's kind of a year-end look at what's been happening. So that's the only thing I thought is present information as a submission, and if there's issues, then that can go further. But otherwise, for them to present all the time, I think that is a little bit over. I mean, that still gives people an opportunity, if it's a submission, if they've got concerns, they can come to the SBC and bring their concerns in the submission.
And I think that...
I think our administration's heard what is expected, and they will go from there. And I trust that we've encapsulated, and if there's any confusion, they would let us know as well. But the most important thing is the importance for the community to come forward, have the ability to have their perspective heard, and to question some of the things that we do as well, and that's important on both sides of the issue. So as amended, call the question?
Call the question.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Opposed? Thank you very much. And just so you know, why these other two didn't, they were just here because they're part of council, but they're not part of the committee. All SPCs are only made up of 4 members of council. One of them is missing. The reason why, we don't want to have a majority. So that's the main reason. Now you know. Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We'll now move on to item 6.1, I do believe. Madam Secretary, am I correct on that? Okay, perfect. We'll now move on to the Municipal Housing Strategy Proposed Implementation Plan, 6.1. Where's the motion? Be resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee receive the Municipal Housing Strategy Proposed Implementation Plan for information. Is there questions? I do believe I see Councillor first question. I've been pretty good on this. I've been batting pretty good. So is there anyone in the community that wants to speak on issue or item submission 6.1 at this time? For a second time? And for a third and final time? Seeing none, I do believe we have questions, so I'm going to start with some questions. Councillor Croson.
First one's a bit of a detailed question. On page 14, you list certain organizations, and I'm trying to find it in here, but not others. How do you choose what organizations with whom to work and who not to work with in there? And like I said, if I could find page 14 easily, I would bring it up here. Trying to remember which organizations I was listing.
Make sure your microphone's on there.
Sorry.
There you go.
Just to clarify your question, is this regarding the action that lists advocate to provincial government to make sure the Lethbridge Housing Authority, Green Acres Foundation, and Indigenous housing authorities? Okay, perfect.
Because there are more housing groups than that. So why are you not saying just work with housing groups? Because they come, they go. But I mean, we've given money to My City Cares, and we've seen other housing groups popping up. Why those 3 specifically?
Yeah, no, fair question, and thank you for asking it. So with Lethbridge Housing Authority and the Green Acres Foundation, those are 2 housing management bodies that are actually constituted as such under provincial legislation. With Indigenous housing authorities, they have been included because Indigenous community members, individuals and families have been identified as a priority population in the municipal housing strategy as needing extra support to get equitable access to housing.
Okay, but we will be working with all the organizations, just on that one specific area. That's why you're linking it there.
Correct.
The other thing is, I'm sorry, but there's some circular logic in here. Your municipal housing strategy is going to recommend changes to the MDP, which is an overarching plan for this one, which would then recommend changes to this. So can you recommend changes to MDP in a policy that is under the MDP?
Yeah, I would actually perhaps look to some colleagues to be able to support some of that, but I will say at a high level that was included in the municipal housing strategy as a recommended action to have that as a consideration. So our implementation of that specific action has just to be that we would actually review it as part of the regular MDP update. Above and beyond that, I might defer.
Okay, so it's not so much, okay, the changes are made. All right, I'll step out right then. I will be back though. Thank you.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Probably through you to Mr. Pritchard or whoever he thinks can answer this. Hopefully he can. I appreciate the action items, the short term, the medium term, and the long term. I'm just wondering, some of the long term strategies involve bits of the corporation, like Lethbridge Land, whereas I would think that it'd be easier to activate an internal department of the city to do things than it would be to go out and do all the stakeholder work, et cetera. I'm just wondering how some of the internal stuff we could do could be maybe moved forward. Like I'm not prejudging anything, but say we said, okay, Lethbridge Land, you're no longer in the residential subdivision business. Your job is infill, densification, and affordable or supportive housing. I'm just wondering, am I dreaming?
I might actually seek a little bit of further clarity on your question there, Councillor Carlson. So when referring to this, I assume this is regarding the action listed as establish an infill development committee?
I don't, unfortunately, I couldn't keep it open. My iPad died, but I just remember when I was reading through all the action items, and I do see that there are many, many, many short-term ones, but the long-term one that referenced what Lethbridge Land could do, I'm like, why can't we do that quicker? And why can't we change the focus of Lethbridge Land? If we know there's a need, is the need really in new subdivisions out on the fringes? Or should we say, we've got this internal corporation. We know what needs to be built, needs to be done, rather than going out and chasing it. Why don't we just do it?
I'll defer this one to Mr. Malcolm. Thank you.
Hi, Andrew.
Afternoon. Thank you for the question. So I think the answer is actually fairly simple in that when we looked at this implementation plan, we were reacting in some ways to the conversations that were taking place here with council when the municipal housing strategy itself came forward, as well as a reality of the economic reality that we're in. So anything that requested extra money or land, which comes at a cost, and there's been no direction that we would move towards disposing of land for free. It would still come at a cost. So anything with land or dollars, we have pushed out to a longer term, which in the case of this is just several years, so that we could approach that more in alignment with an operating or capital budget cycle.
Right, and I get that. 4 years may go by in a blink of an eye. But recently in Ottawa, listening to Prime Minister Carney speak, he talked about if municipalities are moving quickly and putting some skin in the game and doing things to make their housing strategies happen, he basically promised municipalities will be made whole. So I'm wondering if that comes to pass, will we be revisiting this and saying, okay, we can move much faster on some of our long-term strategies and get them done now? Because we know it needs to be done. And I just want to get her done. So are we in talks with the federal government to talk about how municipalities can be made whole or can come?
Until we have a better sense of what that looks like. So for example, at this point, until we have a better sense of what that looks like. So for example, at this point in time, our understanding is that municipalities have to have skin in the game in order for projects to get federal funding. However, the federal government is now talking about establishing a brand new organization called Canada Builds that will actually be building housing throughout the country. We don't know what that actually means for the existing programs yet. So as we get more information and as these developments start to occur, we would certainly be looking to advance our housing outcomes the best we can as we're apprised of those situations.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just want a little comment. Thank you for bringing this forward. I think communities that are ready are going to be hopefully rewarded and actioned appropriately by our federal and hopefully provincial partners. So thank you for bringing this forward. I really appreciated seeing it. Thank you.
Councillor Crowson.
Thank you. As I've been reading this, I've been trying to figure out, there's something that's just not sitting well with me as I read this whole thing. And I think I've realized what it is as I read through it. Could we not have written this a lot more straightforward and in a lot more simple language? There is a lot of acronyms and things. I would simply like to say the things like, I mean, not to be this simplistic, but build more houses. Like, could we not have been a lot more just simple in this? Like, a lot of things are in alignment with previous direction. Do this. Well, the public who reads this has no idea what the previous direction is. Like, you know what I mean? Could we not just be a lot more blunt and simplistic in this? It just seems a lot of city speak, and it doesn't just seem like something we could just hand and go. Work with internal departments and get this done. Get the land use bylaw through. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's when I read this, I'm a little frustrated that it just seems an internal document, and it is, I know that just has a lot of city speak in it. If we are doing any rewriting, can we just be a lot more straightforward in the language?
I think in the language, absolutely. I think the complication that we ran into when we were drafting this was actually that the municipal housing strategy itself was approved by council last year in the summer, and we've been working to get this implementation plan put together. But in the meantime, there's been a lot of specific direction from council on different housing related initiatives. So for example, the land use bylaw renewal project has active direction from council to go forward the way it's been going forward. We want to ensure that those directions from council were not lost or overlooked throughout the writing of this. Above and beyond that, I might defer to Mr. Malcolm on anything further.
The only, and so that's why it's written in that way. And from my perspective, is it is an implementation plan. It is about the steps that the specific steps that we should be taking, and the outcome is build housing.
Okay, I still would recommend going build housing and then list your things, because I realize that most members of the public are not going to wade through this, but it is a very hard sell to the public to say, we need to get this done, when they come back to me and say, I don't know what you just read to me. So, just a comment. Thank you.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Mr. Pitcher, for the report. And I'm going to ask the question that I asked Mr. Malcolm before, because he said that the information was coming up in this next presentation. So you can thank him for this one. But when we looked at those pulled during the pit count, 60% said they're not in housing because of costs, cost of housing, low wages, and lack of financial programs. What work do we see in here that the municipality is doing, or what could we be doing better?
Yeah, so I think the municipal housing strategy really speaks to all housing in the community, the entire housing continuum, which really starts on one end of homelessness and works its way through supportive housing, transitional housing, all the way through to the far end where you're looking at market housing, market rentals, market home ownership. And those are all key for the housing market to be stabilized. I think we've seen challenges in the past couple of years in particular, specifically referencing the time period that the point in time count from the previous one to this version. had occurred. The previous count had included, I think it was 454 people, and now we were up to 522. So the rate of increase had slowed, but in that same period of time, the average rent has gone from nearly, I think it was just shy of $1,100 per month, up to over 30% higher to about $1,440 per month. And in that same period of time, the vacancy rate has dropped from what was probably considered a bit of a low rate at 2.5% down to 0.6%. So there's tighter economic conditions for most individuals across the board, compounded with the fact that housing has increased in cost, which is, I think, reasonably assumed to be largely due to the low vacancy rates. And there are actions that the municipal housing strategy can do, obviously, to support affordable housing development. And we've seen some pretty strong successes there through the management of our Affordable and Social Housing Capital Grant. And I think Mr. Malcolm mentioned during the previous item, we are kind of bookended with good news stories with housing projects getting done there, but ultimately it's going to be across the board that needs to grow, not just within one housing typology. And so we can continue to support those in the most need through affordable and social housing supports and projects. Ultimately, we also need to find ways to increase the housing stock across the entire continuum.
Okay. What is the one thing that you would like to see us do or take on?
I think a lot of the key actions have actually already got direction from council. So I think one of the biggest and most systemic changes that we can make are adjustments to our land use bylaw to promote and support development of different kinds. The strategy speaks to that, and there's already ongoing work on that. At this point, our Affordable and Social Housing Capital Fund is currently allocated out to existing projects. There is a possibility that some of those dollars come back if projects don't get completed as scoped, but financial investment in that is gone a long way thus far, and I imagine in the future, as that fund continues to build up, there will be other opportunities for that fund to continue to administer and develop housing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. I read the resolution, but I'll read it one more time. Be resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee receive the Municipal Housing Strategy Proposed Implementation Plan for information. Councillor Milton Hope.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Pritchard and Mr. Malcolm, for your presentations and for the material that we've been provided. And I'll call the question.
Question's been called. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. This meeting, so do we have a meeting next month too? Okay. Well, I don't know for sure. One time, one we had to cancel, one we don't have. Anyway, have a great, enjoy the weather. It's supposed to get wet. This meeting is adjourned.
Summertime starts tomorrow.
When is the first day of summer?